Well, hello, everybody who listens to Radio Entrepreneurs. My name is Jeffrey Davis, and I am the host of Radio Entrepreneurs. Before I start with my introductions, let me tell everyone we have, as of this week, a new Radio Entrepreneurs website, and we'll have such famous people as the fabulous Marc Z featured on it, and his firm, and other people like that, and the videos of our next guest, who is now a repeat guest. So I encourage everybody to check out Radio Entrepreneurs, our new website, especially if you want to hear some stories about business. But my co-host for this segment is the one and the only, as I said before, fabulous Marc Z from Marc Z Legal Staffing. Welcome back, Marc.
Thank you, Jeff. Flattery will get you everywhere. I'm psyched to be here and psyched to enjoy the ride with you as we hear from our next amazing guest.
Well, as we climb the mountain of hierarchy, the next person we're going to introduce is Beth Cuzzone, a repeat guest. And she is the Chief Strategic Growth Officer at Goulston Storrs. Welcome back, Beth.
Goodness, thank you so much for having me. And first, congratulations on the series. And I'm so happy to hear that there's now a website. These are great sound bites. It doesn't take a long time, and you get so much out of them. It's just packed with great advice and a lot to think about. So I'm excited to be part of it. Thank you so much for having me, truly.
Thank you. Well, we always had a website. We've had one for 6-7 years, but this is a definite result of Nathan Gobes, who is our executive producer, who produced the whole thing, and very, with a lot of knowledge, excluded me from the process. So, I'm really excited about the interview because, everything is in flux right now. It has been for a year and a half, but now we are back into engagement mode. And everybody is looking, as we come out of COVID, how we're looking at engaging with business and adapting. And I know you're going to be talking to us about 5 critical factors organizations need to be looking at as we come out of COVID, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. You are right. The pandemic really has changed business to business, B2B, or business to consumer, B2C strategy. And companies need to be thinking about their approach to strategy, to revenue, and go to market. And it's interesting because the work from home model has basically just created an intersection between the approaches that B2B and B2C make to try to reach their market. Because we're all working from home. And there's going to be more working from home, even as the pandemic, lifts and all of the restrictions lift. And so at any moment, you can be a mom and a CEO. At any moment, you can be a dad and a CMO. So there are times where you're trying to compete. The B2B is trying to compete with the B2C approaches. And those lines have really blurred. And so one of the things that I would say is thinking a little bit about going to a deeper level, whether you're B2C, whether you're a consumer company, or whether you're a service company, or whether you're a B2B company. You're trying to find and develop meaningful relationships at the right level with our customers as people. And, there's not going to be as many in-person opportunities to do that. And so all of the companies right now are thinking about how do we find a methodology where we can be entertaining and engaging and emotional at the same time. And so I would say thinking a little bit about your go-to-market strategies, if you're thinking about what's next and how is this impacting us, I'd say you've got to go digital strong, and ways to engage digitally with your customers or your clients. And, people are multitasking during their day now. The business leaders of today are again, wearing a lot of hats at the same time. And so how do you find that genuine, useful, relevant, significant way to get in contact? I would also say that the client journey is changing. And I'll use a B2B example for this. There used to be a very clear client journey about how somebody went from, made a decision, went from a prospect to a client, or hired a company. And it was awareness. First, you have to know that Marc Z and Z Legal exist. Then there's the next stage is credibility. You've got to know that when you go to Marc Z Legal and you know that you're going to get a high level of custom, services, and people are really going to get to know you and find the company and the law firm or the in-house position that's right for you. And then there was a relationship. You reach out to Z Legal. And then there was, once you find this relationship, then you find out whether this is the company you want to go with. And you go through almost like a qualifying assess. And then you make your decision that Marc Z and Z Legal is the place that I'm going to go. So that client journey, again, is awareness. Think of it almost like a ladder. It's awareness, credibility, relationship. You make your decision, and then you engage that company. Because of the pandemic and because everybody is taking such a digital approach to the way they do business or the way that they run their day-to-day, it's starting now with the need. And then the need, so now the need that was further down or further up that ladder is now the first rung. And so we need to think a little bit about, are you easy to find? Is your digital strategy really speaking to me as if you've already met me? Are you able to capture, really relevant and significant information for me? So I think that companies need to spend some time on their client journey and thinking about all of the touch points along each one of those rungs of the ladder. Does that make sense?
No, I like and it's consistent with the way I've always communicated with clients, that it's a continuum, and there are different experiences and different points along the continuum. And the more you understand all those little points, the better you are at dealing with the client. I don't call it the journey. I actually like your term, the client journey. So I'm agreeing with you 100%. I like it. And and too many people just sort of react without really realizing that there are these stages in the process of working with a client.
Beth, can I just say something just to follow that up? And you talk, which again, I totally agree with you because of what's happening right now. The interesting or challenging thing is when everybody is focusing on digital, is like literally all of a sudden everybody's getting 3 to 4 times the amount of emails that they used to. And it's sort of breaking free of that. And that's when I'm curious how to do that,
It's interesting because consumer marketing has always done a good job, right? They've used famous people. They've used humor. They've used, I remember back in the day, I don't think there was a Kodak commercial that I wouldn't cry at. They used emotion. And for a long time, so consumer marketing has always done a very good job of kind of breaking through and telling a story that really relates to me. And I think the issue that businesses are going to basically be met with, and I think it's accelerated by the pandemic, is that there's no more banner ads. There's no more that are boring. There's no more, email, just push out. Hopefully, the 4 to 6% will respond sort of thing. It really is going to be that B2B needs to start acting like B2C. And if you're a company, you also need to start thinking about how you're going to be virtually building relationships with your customers. You're not going to be calling on them in their offices. You're not going to be able to do a tour of their plant. You're not going to be able to sit in their offices. Right. And so I was recently reading a McKinsey report that said something like 70% of businesses who have been approaching relationship building and customer and client relationship building and sales, if you will, are going to continue to use Zoom, Teams. They're going to continue not to do the in-person relationship building, but continue to do this by video and continue to do this remotely. So thinking a little bit about how you can tell your stories in your advertising, where no longer focused on just, what I call mind share, making sure that everybody sees your logo at events or that your banner ads have logos. Now you need to give me a reason to click through that banner. You need to have a call to action that really speaks to me, that says, if I click on this banner ad, I'm going to get something. Am I going to get a checklist? Am I going to get a great piece of advice? Am I going to, it's no longer just mind share. Now we're all trying to basically tug of war for market share. And so that approach, I'm sorry. I was going to say, so that approach
You're on a roll.
I know. So that approach of, all of our advertising and all of our outreach is around mind share is now shifting to, nope, now it's about market share.
So I just want to react to some of the things you said before we finish. First of all, I won't hold it against you that you use Kodak as the example, because I worked at the Polaroid ad agency.
I see. I think it was a Polaroid ad.
And if you remember, Polaroid did exactly what you were saying with James Garner, and I think it was Mariette Hartley or something like that. People actually believed that they had a relationship. It was created. It was created in an ad agency, and people surveyed across America. Really, they personally affiliated with the brand. And I've always said my whole career, B2B needs to learn from B2C. The concepts of consumer marketing are the concepts of marketing that everyone has to learn. And it is through stories and creating personality and stories. And it is, I think, as you added, I'm just agreeing with you with everything. Once you do all those things, you have to include some form of call to action. So it's amazing. You talked for 8 or 9 minutes and you said everything that any high-end brand marketer would have said about how to deal with the marketplace. So I give you a lot of credit for that, Beth. You really, in 10 minutes, you did a full marketing seminar at the highest end that you could do. So if someone else was looking for you, wanted to get to know you, your services, how would they find you?
Sure, absolutely. So thank you for asking that question. So I'm at Goulston Storrs. We are a law firm up and down the East Coast. And if anybody has any questions and I can be helpful in any way, just find me on our website or on Beth Cuzzone at goulstonstorrs.com. Reach out and we can have a cup of coffee and chat. And again, I thank you so much for having me. And I, again, really enjoy these series. I get a lot out of them. So I'm
going to come back, aren't you? You're going to do another one?
I promise I will come back. And I just want to leave with, one piece of advice, which is take a look at your client journey, create a matrix of all of the touch points. What happens when someone comes to your website? What happens when somebody calls? What happens when somebody opens up your invoice? What happens? But think about every single touch point. Even the ones outside of you providing the service or the product, and start shifting those around and making some real changes to be in our digital half remote world.
Well, we have to agree with you. And, I would agree that you do reach back to people. I've contacted you a few times. And, when Marc Z and I talk about work offline, we do all the things that you're instructing us to do. We sort of go through all the touch points and do all the things. So we're clearly, students of the Beth Cuzzone strategy for how to go to market. But Marc Z, for those looking for you and Marc Z Legal Staffing, how do they find you?
Well, Jeff, can I just say one thing before we go? First of all, Beth, it's so exciting to have you on the show. Beth is a visionary, as you know, Jeff, and you're always not only one step, but probably 3 steps ahead in these fields. And you always see the next thing, even during a pandemic. So it's such a cool opportunity to be on the show with you and hear you talk. So thank you very much for being on the show. And
thank you, Marc. Gosh, thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
And Marc, how would people find you?
Thank you, Jeff. First of all, Google Marc Z, M-A-R-C and the letter Z will come up, or marczlegal.com or 617-338-1300.
And Beth, if you want to test me later, I have all the notes from everything you said pre-interview and during the interview. So I'm ready to be tested. I think I got all the content down. It's right up here too. It's on paper, but it's right here. And my name is Jeffrey Davis, and I am the host of Radio Entrepreneurs, but I can be found at my management consulting firm of Mage, M-A-G-E, at the letter J, Davis, at mageusa.com. And that's my day job. So want to thank Beth Cuzzone and Marc Z. and remind everybody this is the new Radio Entrepreneurs.